Welcome, everybody. November 16th regular council meeting. I'd like to acknowledge that we're holding this in the traditional lands of the Klama Nation. We're going to start with the opening of the council meeting by announcements, and I will start on my left, Councillor Palm.
Nothing this evening, Your Worship.
So Elliott.
Thank you, Your Worship. So some of us managed to make it out to City Hall this morning, or around noon. We had a flag raising for Louis Riel Day with our Métis friends, and that went quite well. We raised both the almond flag and the Métis flag, and we had Vice President of the local chapter of the Métis tell us a history on Louis Riel, and it was a good experience held by all. So today is Louis Riel Day.
You, Councillor Siltgut. The doubt.
Nothing this evening.
Isaacson.
Oh, I guess a couple of things. Tomorrow evening from 6 to 8 p.m. there is the exhibition opening reception for an exhibition called Present at above the Art Center. Above the library in the Qathet Art Center. And this is a resident exhibition. So all of the art in there is created by local residents, and I'll be there. And all of the art will also be for sale as with proceeds back to the artist and to Qathet Art Center as the host. So looking forward to that. And then this week, this Sunday is a Trans Day of Remembrance, and there is a private beach fire for allies, friends, and family, and to contact Trans Qathet if you would like an invitation to know where the location is. But it is Transgender Awareness Week this week. And on Saturday, there's also a film screening and discussion at 1:30 p.m. As part of the Memento Mori Festival called Tender. It's a film screening and facilitated discussion. And so Memento Mori is an annual celebration, maybe is not the right word, but an annual recognition of different aspects of death and dying. And this film screening will happen on Saturday. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Councillor Amita.
Thank you, Your Worship. Today, it seems all my announcements are sporting related. I'll actually start with a little bit of past. If, of course, everyone here, I'm sure, is following our City of Powell River Facebook group, or Facebook page, I should say. But if you haven't, then you missed that this past weekend, our Minor Hockey Association were triple gold winners with the Queens, the female team, the under 11 team winning the tournament in Gibsons. The under 13 rep team winning our local tournament here, and the under 15 rep team winning in Cary Park. So triple gold. Congrats to all of the minor hockey players. Continuing with hockey, our Regals, our senior men's team, are in town this weekend playing a team from Nanaimo. Game time Friday night, 7:30, Saturday at 7:45. Tickets are $10. Great night out to see some great hockey. And on Monday, for those families that were involved in minor baseball this past year, is their AGM meeting, Monday, 7 p.m. All the details are on the minor baseball website. And then next weekend, the 24th, 25th, the Kings are back in town. They're on the road this weekend, but they're back in town next weekend, 24th, 25th, with a couple games there. I did not look up the opponent. And then also happening, I think I wrote the date down wrong, but I think it's actually this Saturday. I believe our soccer team, the Villa, are also in town at 1:30 p.m. So plenty of sports to get your fix locally.
Thank you, Councillor Isaacson.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot a few. The first is that this weekend is when the heavy rotation of craft sales starts. And so there's a craft sale at Assumption School, at the Italian Cultural Center, as well as Dwight Hall. So 3 going on Saturday. Definitely get your craft fair tour on and shop local this holiday season. And I also wanted to mention that next week is Restorative Justice Week. And next Wednesday from 3 to 6 p.m. there's an open house at Qathet Community Justice, which is located in between the library and Quality Foods, right in beside 460 Realty. And so they have an open house kind of from 3 to 5, but from 5 to 6, there's a free 1-hour intro to restorative justice workshop, which is free for everyone to attend. So it's definitely been an interest of many people on this council to support restorative justice, and a great opportunity for people to learn more. Thank you very much.
So Elliot, did you have a?
I did, thank you, Your Worship. I also wanted to mention and forgot earlier that our Pearl River Curling Club is having their bonspiel for, it's called a parallel spiel. They have a women's bonspiel and a men's bonspiel at the same time. The number of teams they have signed up for that bonspiel currently is only about 8 teams for each event. So if you were thinking about joining into a bonspiel, the first weekend of December is our annual parallel spiel, and they could certainly use some more teams. Thanks.
Thank you. So my announcement is, I'm sure most of you have been swamped by Black Friday sales of various organizations around the province and Canada. I would just like to remind us all that our local businesses here stuck with us during COVID, which was very difficult. So I'd like to encourage everybody to get out and support our local business people who have done a great job in staying here through a lot of challenging times. Now we will move to the adoption of the agenda. And I would like to add to the agenda a delegation by Mr. Roger Whitaker. And so if we could have a motion to adopt the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Okay, seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Move to the adoption of the minutes. We have minutes of the regular council meeting held November 2nd. We have the minutes of the special council meeting held November 2nd. We have the minutes of the special council meeting held October 30th.
I move to adopt all 3 minutes as shared.
Seconded, Councillor Palm. Any discussion? All in favor? Passed unanimously. We'll now move to delegations, and I would invite Mr. Whitaker.
Thank you, Your Worship and Council. I'm here on behalf of my business, PR Marine Surveyors. And the reason I come before you tonight is because last year, this council passed a motion and made a bylaw for all boats in the Civic Harbor to get insurance by January 1st. And it's been hammer and tong, head down, tail up since then, doing these things. I have 20 surveys on my desk, 4 more arranging for a lift, several more messages, and so on. So we can count some 20 plus vessels which are waiting to be insured. Second to that, the insurance companies have changed tremendously in the way that they accept insurance documents or process surveys for insurance documents. So now I'm getting calls from people who have older boats and saying, Fred's insurance company won't take me anymore. What do I do? So I have to go find somebody for them. So what I'm here basically to ask is that if there's some way in the grace of council and their workers, is if we could take the people who at least have gone through the motion of getting a survey requested, or their documents are waiting to be processed, or they have their documents and they're trying to find an insurance company, is there a way to give them a few months to let that process happen? And here's where the bottleneck is. If I work diligently every day from now till I get this, just what's on my desk finished, and I spend 12 hours a day at it, I'll not be done just what's on my desk, just to give them their paperwork back. Some of them date back to June. The reason that backlog exists is because when your boat is out on the hard or in a lift, I have to go see it because that's your day to be out. And I can't be doing the other person's documents when I'm doing that because mostly it takes about a day to do a boat. Sometimes you can get 2 or 3 shoved into one day, but that's going to be a pretty exhaustive day. So I'm open to questions if I'm leaving anything out of this, but basically asking for grace for those who are in the mill already or making their way towards that happening, not a general amnesty or general forgiveness, sir. Thank you.
Councillor Palm.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Mr. Whitaker, I'm very, very pleased that you brought this forward tonight because I've been getting phone calls in this regard. It's not so much the volume that is a concern, but there is a certain aspect that is concerning a lot of our boat owners that have larger vessels, not the smaller type like mine under 20 feet. I don't have to worry about a derelict vessel, but those that are larger are having a hard time with their current insurance providers covering all the categories that the city is asking. And that is causing a great deal of concern amongst our boat owners. And I'm not sure what the answer is, but I just want to make staff aware of this so that we can take a second look at what we're asking for and make sure that it's a viable option for people that own those boats. Because I don't have an answer for that myself.
Is that a question?
What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Councillor Elliott to ask her question, and then we'll get back.
Thank you.
Councillor Doubt.
Elliott's asking a question. I just want to ask a question myself.
So thank you, Mr. Whitaker, Roger. So it's true, we are getting quite a lot of requests for lists and surveys. And my question, I think, is to staff, actually. Is there a way we can canvass the folks in our marina to find out where they're at within that process and figure out what we could do? Or I guess that, because in order for us to provide direction, we kind of need a little bit of feedback into what might be possible. So
through the chair to Councillor Elliott, and I'll let the rest of my team chip in if they have more information. If council wanted to consider this, you'd have to do a bylaw amendment, because right now we have a bylaw that puts this in place, and Mr. Whitaker is asking for himself and others to have an exception to that. So we would have to have direction from you to make a bylaw amendment. We can look into this a bit further. In terms of canvassing others, Councillor Elliott, I'm wondering, are you thinking to find out if there are more than Mr. Whitaker in need of this?
So I'm assuming anyone who already has their insurance in place would have sent it to the city, and we know who those people are. Those that may be in various spots within this stages within the process of trying to get their insurance and may not make the deadline, I'd like to know how many they are and what they are and how that might be incorporated as far as how much time they need or whatever.
Through the chair, council could direct staff to have the wharfinger prepare a notice to put up, and staff can also send an email out to the harbor users. We don't have all the emails, but we do have some. So between a notice at the harbor and an email, we could request that those needing an extension email the wharfinger and collect a list. We could then report those numbers back. I can see here that Mr. Whitaker does have a list of his own. I can't ensure that it's fully complete, but we know it's the minimum number. Looks to be about 20.
Councillor Doubt.
Thank you.
Rather than just see if we can cobble together some brilliant idea in the next 5 minutes in an emergency delegation that we haven't heard of before, and we don't have any notes on what it's going to be about. I trust that you're giving us an accurate representation, Roger, of the people that have talked to you, but there may have been others. Anybody who's down on the dock, myself included, will have talked to many people about the issue. I'd like to actually spend some time with staff thinking about what to do and taking some time to come up with a solution. We don't have to have a solution by 7:30 tonight. We could wait even till next week and maybe think it through and have an idea of what's going on. So maybe it's possible to leave that with council and staff to look at different solutions that might work better. There will be some people who will never be able to get insurance. There were some who may be able to get it if they look in the right place. And there needs to be a way to ease the transition, I would say, for people. But I think we can look into it without trying to solve the problem in the next 5 minutes.
Mr. Winter.
And may I speak?
Yes.
And I would agree 100% with that Councillor Doubt has said. I'm not the only surveyor, and I don't get all the phone calls. I get some, and there may be another list just like this where another surveyor has 6 or 7 sitting on his desk as well, or her desk. And I travel all over the province doing surveys, so I'm sure that other people come here and do them. And so there may, it needs to be, what I'm trying to do is just bring attention to the fact that there's a bottleneck which I'm seeing pour out onto my desk, which may exist in other places. And this is the only place to address that at.
Okay.
Could we just say that council's aware of the issue and we'll be working with staff to address the problems that are going to come up?
Perfect.
Councillor Isaacson, did you have?
No, I think my main question is, Councillor Doubt talked about working with staff. Do we need a motion to bring this forward? I don't know what the wording would be, so I offer it back to other councillors.
Could I ask our corporate officer?
Thank you, Chair. So through a motion might be helpful to get so that we do have proper direction, exactly what you'd like us to do. I think staff and general operations would be managing if folks couldn't get insurance anyway, but if you had wanted us to do something additional, I think a motion would be helpful.
Councillor Elliott.
I could try to make a motion for direction to staff to investigate the issue as far as the extent of it and bring recommendations back to council for how we might address the issue.
We have a seconder. Councillor Palm. Okay. Any further discussion before we vote? Councillor Almeida.
I have no opposition. My only question, I guess, to staff is, do we, and it's probably maybe not necessary at all, but do we need to put a date to have it come back to the first week of December? I imagine we want to be a little bit time sensitive.
Through the chair, a date would be helpful. As the bylaw currently stands, those who don't have insurance as of January 1st would then lose their slip, and there is a very lengthy wait list. So if a decision isn't made in time to then amend a bylaw, staff will be stuck with that decision. We must follow the bylaw, so January 1 would be a lot of very difficult news for staff to deliver. So it is quite time sensitive from what I can see.
Councillor Almeida.
And then is an amendment just as simple as a motion vote on the bylaw? Are there any other preliminary hearings or anything that would be necessary?
Through the chair, it would require the 3 readings and then adoption in a separate meeting. So as it stands, it's very tight.
So you want to add a date?
I'll add the
December.
amendment then to get things moving, that that the report come back to committee of the whole on December 5th, which I believe is our next meeting, and make it the earliest thing outside of a special meeting.
Second the amendment, and I have a question.
Okay. All in favor of the amendment?
I think Councillor Elliott has a question about the amendment.
I do, yeah. So I'm seconding it, but I also have a question to speak to. Thank you, Your Worship. So my question is, just hearing this discussion, it sounds like we might want to do first and second, third reading on December 5th if we decide to go forward that way. So the options that would come back on December 5th may also require potential. Am I wrong?
Through the chair. So we would need a bylaw, a draft bylaw for consideration, but we wouldn't necessarily know what council is looking for changes. I think the report would be bringing the pros and the cons of extending this. Off the top of my head, many people started this process early and got underway and have insurance. Those who waited may have a consequence if it's not decided to extend the deadline in the bylaw. So there's pros and cons to consider that staff would bring in a report. At that point, council would consider the information, give direction for the bylaw for the next meeting. For staff to bring a bylaw forward, staff would need to understand what changes council may or may not want, which is difficult to predict. So we need to speculate, which could sometimes delay the process. I'm going to pass it over to Ms. CAO.
I've got two of these now. To the mayor, to council, you do have the option of having a special council meeting where we could have that discussion about the things you'd like to see in the bylaw. And then our deputy CAO has pointed out December 7th would have to be the time for you to consider first and second readings of the bylaw, because it has to happen at a council meeting. So, however, what we can do is look at scheduling a special meeting to have that, so that we know that we're coming to you with a proposed bylaw amendment that is going to meet what you expect.
We have an amendment on the floor. All in favor? Opposed? Right. The amendment is passed unanimously. We now have a vote on the initial motion. All in favor? Passed unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Whitaker.
May I add one more thing? It's not always that people delayed, it's that there's bottlenecks along the way.
Yep.
And it's not always the boat owners who are the delay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time tonight. Appreciate it.
Okay. Now move to correspondence. And the correspondence is the proclamation, which I will now read. It's the proclamation of the Louis Riel Day. Whereas the Métis people are recognized as one of Canada's Indigenous people, pursuant to Section 35 of the Constitution. Whereas the Métis culture, rich in spiritual beliefs and traditions, is an important part of British Columbia's multicultural character. And whereas throughout history, Métis citizens have made significant contributions to the success of our province. And whereas Louis Riel has made an enormous contribution towards the development of this country. Now, therefore, I, Ron Wasno, Mayor of the City of Powell River, do hereby proclaim November the 16th, 2023, and each year on this day going forward, Louis Riel Day in the City of Powell River. We will now move to committee reports. 6.1 is Committee of the Whole meeting held October 17th, 2023 meeting minutes.
Shared that.
Councillor Southcott. Oh, I thought they said you.
Committee of the Whole Chair.
The agenda. With my
Bang that mic long.
had Jenkins from. Right. Just
gonna give this one more.
So many devices.
I don't need a plug-in here.
I can move this, it's okay. I don't need 3.
Yeah, let's just add more.
Thank you for your patience, Your Worship. We had Julie Jenkins from Lyft come and present to us with regard to spaces for a warming center. And that has actually, that came back to us on Tuesday, did it not? And we had Rob Ringma from BC Transit come and talk to us about the proposed BC Transit plan for the coming year. We had our Heritage Procedures Bylaw, various engagement reports from councillors, and then we went into closed, and that's pretty much what we had that meeting. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Southcott. We'll now move to 8, which is reports for decisions. 8.1 is the Community Belonging Initiative, city partnership with the University of Victoria.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for having me this evening. I have a report before you, and from my perspective, it's a brief report. The purpose of that report is to present information regarding the Community Belonging Initiative and to obtain direction to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Community Belonging Research Team from the School of Child and Youth Care at the University of Victoria. The city was approached by the Community Belonging Research Team from the university with respect to, with a request to partner on an initiative that would work to enhance disabled children's participation and belonging in Powell River. Key members of that team are Janet Newberry and Allison Gerlach, who are both professors with the University of Victoria. The research team has requested that the city enter into an agreement to formalize the partnership and define roles and responsibilities moving forward. A signed agreement will support the community research team in terms of seeking funding. It's probably important to note now that funding is not being requested as part of this partnership, other than in-kind activities like some modest staff time and meeting space when needed to convene the project partners. The scope of the work is proposed is limited to an environmental scan of the community at this time. Upon the completion of that, there's an opportunity that the partners could agree to a second phase of this proposal. And this could include a review of city programming through the lens of belonging. Attached to the report is a draft memorandum of understanding. And as I already explained, it does lay out the roles and responsibilities. If you turn to that second page, it has project activities, and you will see that the bulk of the work is being completed by the research team themselves, again, with a modest request of staff time to meet, to talk about pre-environmental scan discussion and post-environmental scan discussion. From the perspective of myself, the value of a project like this is the opportunity to engage with interest groups, knowledgeable interest groups that are going to help build policy for the official community plan rewrite. I think the work going on beyond this, and perhaps a look at it, for example, the city's largest programming function at the rec complex is an obvious second phase, but that's not part of this phase. This phase is really about that first environmental scan and working with planning staff to develop policies that we can then put forward as a recommendation as a part of that official community plan rewrite. It really completes all that I have to present today.
So Almeida.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just curious. I guess this seems very exciting and lots of opportunity. I believe we're still in the middle of a accessibility study between the region, the district, and the library in the city. Will this project be able to intertwine or get involved or help with that at all?
Through the chair to Councillor Almeida, thank you for that question. Yes, I failed to mention that that is an obvious overlap as well, the Accessibility and Inclusion Committee. That's another benefit to this process.
Councillor Isaacs.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, this is an exciting opportunity for us. I wanted to note that Dr. Janet Newbury is local to the qathet region, is super knowledgeable about child and youth opportunities in this region. So I think there's some great integration opportunities there. And so I just wanted to make that local connection for folks.
Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Your Worship. I really want to thank the School of Child and Youth Care at UVIC for asking and roping the city in, and thank Director Gao for bringing this to our attention. My question is, the Community Belonging Research Team, there's a list of things they're going to do, and then a list of things that the city's going to do. Is there to be some sort of involvement of the city within the study itself, other than the things here? Like, for example, would there be some kind of a project steering committee or advisory committee? And if so, would we be having it at a staff level or a political level? And so that's kind of my question. I'm not really seeing much detail around any of that as far as our participation goes.
Through the chair to Councillor Elliott. It isn't identified an advisory committee at this stage. The staff-to-staff component would include a broad number of staff. And so on my left here, Mr. Bretzlaff has also been engaged in this process from the beginning. But again, perhaps that's a request that council may wish to make, that it be broader than just staff to staff, but at this point, it hasn't been proposed.
Thank you for that answer. I just have one more follow-up. Do we anticipate any budgetary impacts of the MOU at all?
Through the chair, no, this is staff time. And as I mentioned at the beginning, this is a relatively formal process, and this is largely because this is what's required for the research team themselves to get funding. We would likely be having these conversations with groups in the community as part of the official community plan process already. I think the added benefit to having it formalized is just so we can all see what the expectations are. And at the end, we can come back to council and say, this is what happened, this is what took place, this is what came of it, and are we in a place where we can consider a second phase?
We have a recommendation from staff. Would somebody? Yes, Councillor Isaacs.
Thank you, Mayor. I will move that council endorse the Community Belonging Initiative and direct staff to enter into the attached memorandum of understanding.
Is that for council or committee of the whole?
Oh, yeah. So motion to refer this to council, correct? Or is it delegated?
So
We are at council right tonight.
Oh, shit.
Long week.
We don't even know what meeting we're at. All
right.
It's the first time we've seen it that we get confused. That's what it is.
Okay, so I read the motion as it should be read.
You did. Sorry. My apologies.
We have a seconder for the motion, Councillor Southcott. Any further discussion? All in favor?
I was going to discuss, but
Sorry, I missed that.
Somebody needs.
up my hand. So I am kind of excited about the process. I belong to a number of groups that advocate for access to education and so forth for people with challenging neurodiverse conditions. And there are a number of ways our city has, in my experience, handled things in a way that were a little less than friendly to some folks. So I'm really excited about the study and what we can learn to do to make things better in our city. So I'm in favor. Thanks.
We have a motion on the floor, seconded. All in favor? Passed unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Now move to item 9, which is reports from the municipal directors of the qathet Regional District.
Great, Mr. Mayor. We've been saving them up for a while. I've got
Great.
actually 3 meetings to report on. The first one was the qathet Regional Board meeting from way back on October 25th. Going through the exciting parts of that, we had correspondence from Ann Kang, the Minister of Municipal Affairs, already a letter about Section 90 of the Community Charter, which was a request of the qathet Regional District to actually come out with some language in the Community Charter dealing with First Nations, Treaty First Nations, and including them in deliberations, and whether or not you could have in-camera meetings of C2 or C3 operations. So it was a letter basically of support there from Minister Kang. We went on, the Green Shores for Local Government Working Group was set up, and the Regional District decided to continue its membership in the Green Shores for Local Government Working Group for 2024, and that basically is dedicated to the cleanup of coastlines. And in the Regional District, we've got a lot of coastlines, and it's amazing how much styrofoam and plastic there is to be collected off the beach, and how much granular styrofoam, those big foam blocks that people use to support their docks, break into little granules, and they fill the beaches. But participation is going on. The delegation of purchasing authority by law, procurement policy for the Regional District was looked at, and we adjusted the annual ability of different staff members to make payments without necessarily coming to the board for authorization. So just making sure that there's management of it. Selena Speed sent us a letter about the Comox Valley Regional District Corporate Services RE 911 Director Resolution. So North Island 911 does the emergency answering for fire and first responders for the entire regional district. Changed the organization there about how it's paid for by the different regional districts. It was originally totally by property assessments, and that wasn't working because some places were having huge increases in property assessments that didn't reflect in huge increases in calls to 911. Other ones were having small property value increases, but large increases in calls to 911. Came up over the last 4 years with a combination of formula to get to a formula for payment of the North Island 911 fees to include both population and the assessment of the properties there. So that we had votes of every regional district had to accept that. It really didn't affect the qathet Regional District very much. I think we went from 8.1% up to 8.11. So it had very little impact on the qathet Regional District, had much larger impact on some of the other regional districts. We accepted that resource recovery and waste transfer station temporary borrowing bylaw. Got that big transfer station going on down there. We've got authorization to get the final borrowing when the project is complete. But this was a temporary one to get temporary short-term borrowing to keep us through to when the project is completed and we get the final long-term debt. We've extended the Republic Services transport and disposal contract for municipal solid waste, and that is the transportation from tipping at Augusta down to the barge terminal, down to Surrey, on the railway track, down into the central United States where it's dumped, and we've extended that contract for an additional year. Cemetery fees and charges bylaw was passed by the regional district. It's interesting to everybody because run by the regional district in the city, the one in Cranberry, is the regional district service. pages and pages of stuff, which is more interesting to regional district representatives. Finally, there was a rise-in report that the Qathet Regional District will contract Frontera Forest Solutions Inc. to deliver a Qathet regional community-wide wildfire resiliency plan. And with all of the impacts of wildfires last year around the province, obviously every regional district understands that they need a plan for wildfires and how to deal with them and how to recover from them. And we've got a group of consultants working on that. So that was the 25th of October. We'll move on to November 1st, which is a shorter one. It's not too long. It was the next week. Changes going on in the meeting times. So the regional district elects its chair once a year. Every year in November, the regional district has an election. That went through, and Director Brander, Area C, was elected for another term as chair of the regional district. Stuart Clark came from Lift Community Service, came and did a report to the Qathet Regional District on the homelessness count. Vancouver Island Regional Library Executive Director appointments were made, and we do that at the regional district because Lasqueti Island actually is part of the Vancouver Island library system. So again, some learning from both of the organizations there. And as for rising report from the closed meetings, the board renewed appointments for individuals on the Savory Island Marine Advisory Committee, Texada Island Recreation Commission, the Fall River Public Library, and the board acquired Unit 201 4675 Marine Avenue, Fall River, and will explore options for uses of some of the units in that building. That's basically part of the building that the regional district offices occupy right now. We had an opportunity to buy some more of the property, and will allow for a bigger boardroom and the offices that are required to do regional district operations. So it was a good opportunity to expand the space. And anybody who's been in the regional district boardroom knows that it's pretty cramped in there if you get more than 2 people of the public that want to come and see what's going on. And the final one that I want to report on is a special regional hospital board meeting from November the 8th this year. And we had that special meeting for 2 reasons. One was to talk about having a meeting with the chairs and the vice chairs of the Sunshine Coast and the Sea to Sky regional hospital districts to talk about updating the memorandum of agreement between the hospital districts and Vancouver Coastal Health. That's been in existence since 2014, and it could use a refresh to get more communication going between the groups. And the highlight of the day from my point of view there was that we moved and seconded that the Regional Hospital District Board amend the lease of the building and property at 5907 Arbutus Avenue by transferring the lease to Together We Can Drug and Alcohol Recovery and Education Center, and removing a very restrictive clause in there that was preventing them from getting funding to go forward. And that's the old ambulance building, which is now in the hands of McLeod Recovery Center and the Together We Can Drug and Alcohol Recovery Society, who now have big plans and have funding that I'm told is in place, turn that into an extended treatment center. There's more rooms, more extension from people who have detoxed at the hospital and then need to move somewhere else in the community. And I hope to see that being renovated and turned into an active treatment facility in the very near future. And one of the exciting things that McLeod was telling me about was that they have hopes of going from here to their next stage, which will be a recovery center for women, which is badly needed in the area. So those are the things that I took out of those 3 meetings, and I'm sure Councillor Elliott may have some other ones.
Councillor Elliott.
Well, Councillor Doubt was very comprehensive, but I just wanted to flag a piece of correspondence that came in one of our meetings, and it was from the Provincial Community Action Initiative that indicated that there was a meeting for all local leaders united elected officials on November 15th that he was hosting and hoping everybody could come to. And that has been pushed into January. They're rescheduling that. So that was in a piece of correspondence on that regional district meeting. And for those who are wondering if that happened, it hasn't happened yet. It's going to be in January. I understand our regional health officer is going to be in attendance, and it'll be an excellent event. And I hope people make every effort to attend when they reschedule it. Thanks.
Okay, we'll now move to new business, item 12.1. The resignation as alternate municipal director on the Qathet Regional District Board. Councillor Palm has advised that he will be stepping down. Councillor Palm, would you like to make any further comments?
Your worship, it's just personal reasons that I'm stepping down from the regional district. I have there since last year and taken a good look around on what's transpiring, and I've got a number of things happening in my life, and I will just have to step away for the time.
Thank you, Councillor Palm. The process now is that Councillor Elliott to
Thank you, Your Worship.
talk to the process.
I know. I wanted, Councillor Palm has been my alternate on regional district, and I just wanted to express some heartfelt thank you and let him know that I've really appreciated all of his input and chats along the way about the regional district stuff, and his backup when needed, and his wonderful counsel when he had things to share that he wanted me to bring forward. So I wanted to thank you, Jim, for that. Sorry, Councillor Paul.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you. So the process now is that council should put forward a motion recommending a individual to replace Councillor Palm. So any discussion on this? Councillor Almeida.
We'll politely step aside from that conversation. My schedule will not permit me to fill that duty the way it would need to be fulfilled in a proper manner. So,
You, Councillor Doat.
I'm going to make this really simple because doing the math, we have myself, who is a director of the regional district. We have Councillor Elliott, who is a director of the regional district. We have Councillor Southcott, who is an alternate. We have Councillor Palm, who has just resigned. We have Councillor Alameda, who has just said that he would step down from taking the job. So I would nominate Councillor Isaacson as the alternate for Councillor Elliott.
Okay, just Councillor Isaacson. Would you agree if your name was put forward as the alternate?
I would accept that. Mayor, thank you.
Second?
Okay.
A second?
Yep, we have a seconder, and now, Councillor Elliott, did you have a?
I was trying to second, but if you want me to talk, I would be super happy to have Councillor Isaacson as my alternate. And I do have some trips coming up, so she'll be good and busy and dive right in there.
Great, we have a motion on the floor. Seconded, all in favor? Opposed, passed unanimously. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I just want to sort of step outside the rules here and make a comment. I just want to point out that both Councillor Palm and Councillor Southcott, who are alternates for the regional district, who have attended virtually all of the sessions of the regional district, sat in the gallery and paid attention to what's going on, and that is unusual participation, and I appreciate the work that they've put in making sure that they understand what's going on. Rare, and I appreciate what both of you were doing.
Thank you, Mayor. And I, when I have attended, I mean, maybe I've attended 2 regional district meetings, and I did note that they were both in attendance, I think, at both of them. And so it's been on my list of things to do. Hey, follow the regional district a bit closer, and now I have to. So I look forward to attending those meetings in person or virtually, and reaching out to Councillor, well, the other alternates to learn a little bit more about how to show up in that role in an appropriate way. So happy to serve. And I think there's some sort of remuneration if I attend in your stead, like $100 or something.
I know.
Even if there's not, it's just the duty. Anyways, thank you.
Thank you. We'll now go to a motion to go into a closed meeting. Councillor Almeida.
I move that following adjournment of this regular meeting, council move into a closed meeting to discuss matters covered by the community charter under sections 90.1, G, litigation or potential litigation affecting the municipality, I, the receipt of advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, and N, the consideration of whether a council meeting should be closed under a provision of this subsection or subsection 2.
Thank you. I just realized, thanks to Councillor Elliott, that we should have asked for questions from the audience first. So we'll just park Councillor Almeida's motion and ask if there's anybody in the audience that has a question. Mr. Kalinsky. Thank you. And do we have anybody online? Okay. And yes. Please come forward, introduce yourself, Mr. Malaspina. Oh no, I'm sorry.
Hi, my name is Robin Murray. Good to see you all again. It was wonderful to hear that it's Louis Riel Day today. I didn't realize that. Thank you for bringing it up. Being from Saskatchewan, Louis was a big part of our history, and it's nice to see him recognized. One thing that would be nice, and what we talked about in the last year and a half or something like that, is having more communication with the public and letting people know about stuff like this. I didn't see anything come through the Facebook page or anything about Louis Riel. It'd be great to know about these proclamations or these days, a couple of days in advance or a week in advance or something like that. And just to keep more people out. Like I would have loved to have come down to the ceremony, but I didn't realize it was happening. And that kind of leads me into one of the other things that was talked about was community engagement and stuff like that. One thing that had been talked about is meetings with the mayor. I remember that there was one earlier this year that was an open meeting, but that was the only one. And then the other thing was there was talk of a I'd heard people talk about it, and I'd presented it when I was running last year, was a newsletter as to things that are happening in the city. Has there been any talk of like with the, I think we still have a communications director with us with the city. We don't? We do.
Yes, I'm going to refer, yes, going to refer this to our CAO, who's
Through the chair to the delegation, our intention is, yes, to start doing more of an external communication using the format that we've been trialing out internally to improve our reach to our wider citizens. Thank you.
okay. And I would like to note that there have been many of the council and myself that have been invited to, and we've accepted at Ratepayers Association and other associations to answer questions and talk about it. Councillor Isaacson.
I was also going to share, Councillor Palm and I were interested in this and bringing this forward to council and to work with staff on last year. And we've been in conversations with the Director of Communications and Economic Development and Properties, who has since left the city. And so things kind of stalled there and transitioned to new CAO. And so it's a matter of, through our strategic planning process and as staffing stabilizes, I know that's important to me as well. And so in lieu of that, as the mayor mentioned, it means attending open houses, for example, that staff have related to planning and being available and attending public events and reporting back on them at council. So it yeah, I know what you speak, and it's part of the being patient with a lot of staff transitions and getting through our strategic planning process.
Great.
Thank you, Mr. Murray.
Thank you.
Councillor Elliott has the floor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Mr. Murray. I share your desire to and concur with many of your thoughts on what would improve things. And I think that staff turnover and the trying to get staffed up part of things has really impacted our ability to do some things. And this is something that I think is important to me as well. So I hope to do better in the future. Thank you.
Councillor Amita.
Yeah, sorry not to drag on a small part any longer, but I had the privilege of filling in for the mayor today at the flag ceremony. It was my first flag ceremony, not only just filling in, but the first one attending. So it was a great experience for me in that case. It was also the first one for our new CAO to be at while in her new role. So I think we learned a lot from today's small event. It was great to see the VP of the Métis Nation there of qathet sharing today. Also great to see that the VP is a very young VP in that role. So it's great for the youth that are getting involved in the Métis Nation qathet organization. And I think there's a lot of little things that we learned today that we can move forward. I don't feel like we need any staff direction. I think the CAO's got it under control, but I look forward to our next event of similar nature, which we will be much improved on from today.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Murray.
Thank you.
Now, we have a motion on the floor, seconded by Councillor Isaacson, to go into a closed meeting. Any discussion? All in favor? Passed unanimously. Yes, Councillor Almeida.
Move to adjourn.
Second by Councillor Isaacson. All in favor? Passed unanimously. Thank you.